you something else. There's no way saying this is to the camps, and that's why it's done the way it is. See how complex this is? That's why I'm saying we're no way saying this is exactly what the high priest breastplate, these are exactly the stones. That's not the goal of this video. Now, in doing this study, I want to share with you something else. When you search these stones, of course, you will find these stones in Exodus 28. You also find them in Job 28, as it deals with wisdom, many of them. And of course, we find them in Revelation 21 with New Jerusalem. We also find the stones in Ezekiel 28. And what I found interesting is in Ezekiel 28, when we read the Septuagint, and that is the Greek Old Testament, when they list the stones, they list them in the exact order as the order that we see on the high priest breastplate in Exodus 28. So what does it mean? Well, the anointed cherub is being described by the prophet Ezekiel before his fall. Okay, so before his fall, it talks about how Yahweh created the anointed cherub, and it describes in the Masoretic King James Version 9 gemstones. 9, exactly the ones that are on the high priest breastplate. The Septuagint takes that a step farther and includes 3 more that would be part of the high priest breastplate in Exodus 28, and they're on the anointed cherub in Ezekiel 28. Now that's very deep, because what that tells us is that these gemstones were part of the anointed cherub, part of the worship, part of this being before its fall, and that it is actually showing us New Jerusalem before Adam is even created. And that's very profound. But we also have to realize that this entity, which we now know as Lucifer or the dragon or the serpent, he had these stones on him as well. He had instruments, musical instruments that were part of his very being. He didn't have to hold a piece of a material instrument in his hand and play it. It was part of the structure of him as an entity. He could make sounds. He had these stones. Ezekiel 28 tells us this. One of the sounds was like a flute. One of them was like a stringed instrument, a nabel. So anyway, that is an extraordinary connection that the Septuagint makes, because they list all 12 stones that is on the high priest breastplate, and they have those attributed to the stones that's on the anointed cherub. So there's a couple ways of looking at that. Number one, it's like, oh, the anointed cherub knows about these gemstones, and it talks about these are the stones of fire. These are those that walk upon the stones of fire. And that's the angelic order, what they would do in the worship of the Holy Most High in Eden and before the throne. But it also shows us what I believe is something very interesting, and that is that the ways of the Most High are consistent. And so that when he created that entity, he allowed prophet Ezekiel to see him before his fall. Now, after his fall, he looked different. But that is part of what he looked like would be the very end of the redemption process of mankind in New Jerusalem. So I hope that makes sense. So guys, that concludes our video on the high priest breastplate. We're not totally finished. We will, in doing this study, okay, I also wanted to make sense of the Urim and Thummim in this study to try to, see if I'm on the right track here or not. And I believe that the concluding matter that supported this theory is the fact that the tribes have their banner, and the tribe of Levi is in the middle of the camp. And this breastplate allows you to have the Urim and Thummim in the middle of the camp instead of putting it in a pouch in the back that you can't see. Okay, so we do hope to have a part 2 Urim and Thummim. Okay, have a focus on those. And what fulfillment do we see there? Very interesting study. So again, as we said, this is part of our playlist, Show the Pattern, Measure the Design. I will scan the PDF files and have that in the notes and description of the video. And a voice came from the throne and from the temple saying, it is done.